More than 6,000 new COVID-19 cases reported in the nation. Authorities warn Omicron will soon become the dominant strain. The daily virus tally surges in Japan, India, and more. President Moon Jae-in met with his Egyptian counterpart. The two leaders discussed FTAs and ways to bolster economic cooperation. Marking 1 year in office, U.S. President Joe Biden held a presser. He covered various issues, including the pandemic, the infrastructure law, and Ukraine issues, but didn't mention North Korea. Good evening, I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with the top story at this hour. The nation's daily COVID-19 tally spiked past 6,000. When it exceeds 7,000, authorities will adopt a new response system that lets more people recover at home. Kim Hyun-sung starts us off.
Thursday's COVID-19 tally topped 6,000. South Korea saw 6,603 new infections on Thursday, rising almost 800 from the day before. Most were local infections. Regions across the country are seeing record numbers. Gyeonggi-do Province, Gwangju City, and Chungcheongbuk-do Province all hit fresh highs in their local caseloads. These numbers are being driven up by the spread of Omicron. Authorities say that the country could hit 7,000 cases a day as early as Friday. When the daily average tops 7,000, authorities are planning to pivot into a faster and more efficient virus response. This new response system will expand at-home recovery, rope in local doctors to help with testing and treatment, and shorten the number of days of isolation. Further details will be announced on Friday. The Korea Disease and Prevention Agency on Thursday once again stressed that vaccinations are the best defense against Omicron.
We've confirmed neutralizing antibody levels against Omicron and Delta rising 2 to 3 weeks after the third dose.
Studies from Korea National Institute of Health observed neutralizing antibodies against Omicron increasing almost 29-fold after the third dose, compared to 10-fold after the second jab. They're also recommending vaccines to pregnant women, despite the requests to exempt pregnant women from the vaccine pass rules.
Pregnant women are considered high risk, and if they get COVID-19, they have a higher risk of death and critical illness. Pregnant women's critical risk is 9 times higher than other women who are in their childbearing ages.
Health officials added that contracting the virus poses a far higher risk to the mother and her fetus than the vaccinations. Kim Hyun-sung, Arirang News.
Around a week has passed since the country received Pfizer oral treatment. Dozens of patients have been given the pills. To check out how Paxlovid is being administered, our Chen Min-jung went to a residential treatment center.
This COVID-19 patient is being treated with Paxlovid, Pfizer's antiviral drug. He is currently being looked after at a residential treatment center in Seoul and is very close to completing the course of pills.
코로나 치료제 박스로비드를 4일 정도 드셨고 이제 하루 정도 남겨 놓으신 상황인데요. 지금 어떻게 약 드시면서 증상이 많이 좋아지셨나요?
예, 근데 이제 지침이 좀 있던 게 간질간질한 목이 간질간질 그런 게 없어졌고요.
아, 기침을 하시던 게 좀 없어지셨고.
Just like this patient, many people are expected to take the pills in the days and weeks to come. Now let's take a look at how Paxlovid is prescribed and administered. Before prescribing the treatment, doctors first consult with the patients using non-contact methods to check their health. Doctors then use the Drug Utilization Review Program, also known as DUR. This program uses the patient's prescription history to help doctors determine whether or not patients can take the pills. This is important as a total of 28 drug substances are designated as ingredients that should not be taken together with Paxlovid. If the patient is eligible and is willing to receive the treatment, the medicine is administered twice a day, once in the morning and once in the evening, and medical workers regularly monitor patients' health conditions after they take the pills. The director at this treatment center expressed optimism over the drug's potential to become a game changer amid the rapid spread of the Omicron variant.
I believe that Paxlovid will play a crucial role in preventing moderate cases from becoming severe. Studies have shown that the treatment is around 90% effective, so it will be essential in times when infections are increasing due to Omicron.
Unlike the relatively slow initial vaccine rollout, South Korea was able to become one of the first nations in the world to administer the COVID-19 pills. The first shipment of Paxlovid arrived last week. And over the first 3 days after arrival, a total of 39 people have taken the pills, with no reports of side effects as of Sunday. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
COVID-19 tally is rising across Asia. Omicron cases in Hong Kong put a halt on in-person classes. The virus is spreading rapidly in Japan and India. Pyeonji brings the updates.
The government of Hong Kong plans to suspend face-to-face class in secondary schools from Monday due to a rise in COVID-19 cases among students and teachers. Authorities said Thursday that schools will stay shut until February 7th, after the Lunar New Year holidays. This comes after Hong Kong also halted in-person classes at primary schools and kindergartens last Friday. This year, Hong Kong has seen dozens of cases of the Omicron variant after the first local transmission was reported at the end of December. Over in India, new daily COVID-19 cases topped 300,000 on Thursday, according to the country's health authorities. This is the highest tally in about 8 months. In May last year, India ran out of hospital beds and medical supplies, as the daily number of cases went above 400,000. Recently, cases have fallen sharply in big cities including New Delhi and Mumbai, but the virus continues to spread in rural areas and smaller cities. Ahead of the upcoming Winter Olympics, China's capital city of Beijing has also ramped up efforts to curb COVID-19 infections. The city of Beijing has reported 3 domestically transmitted cases among people who are symptomatic. The city government said it will launch full inspections immediately over its cold chain industry, after some infections were found to be among cold storage workers. And in Japan, cases topped 40,000 for the first time, prompting local authorities to expand the stronger antivirus measures to Tokyo and 12 other prefectures for 3 weeks starting Friday. Pyeonji, Arirang News.
A recent study conducted by Israeli health authorities reportedly supports the notion that fully vaccinated kids are more likely to be protected from the coronavirus and its variants. The Times of Israel reported Thursday that chances that vaccinated kids are likely to contract Omicron is halved compared to their unvaccinated peers. The research was based on 100,000 kids aged between 5 and 11 during a 3-week period leading up to January 16th. The study also found teenagers who received booster doses were shown to have heightened protection. 2 years ago, on January 20th, South Korea detected its first COVID-19 case. The country recently passed 700,000 cases in total. Life has been transformed due to the virus and the restrictions imposed. Han Sung-woo has the full story.
January 20th, 2020, the day COVID-19 first entered South Korea. In the 2 years since then, over 700,000 people have been infected and roughly 6,500 have died. The nation's very first infection came from abroad, a Chinese woman who entered the country via Incheon International Airport. Not long after, the first wave of cases began in Gyeongsangbuk-do province and the city of Daegu, where a cluster infection at a religious cult led to hundreds of daily cases. Then, in the summer, the epicenter moved to Seoul and the surrounding area, fueled by clusters at a church in the capital and from public demonstrations in the heart of the city. That came before the virus spread nationwide in the winter months during the third wave, with daily tallies hitting the 4 digits as health authorities scrambled to contain the virus through strict social distancing guidelines. Vaccines finally started rolling out in late February, though, raising hopes that a gradual return to normal would soon be within reach by achieving the ultimate goal at that time, herd immunity.
It would mean that even the Delta variant can theoretically be overcome without masks, gathering bans, and business restrictions.
But little did health authorities know the worst was yet to come. Even with many vaccinated, infections spiked in July of last year as the Delta variant surged across the country, leaving hospitals in need of more beds, businesses struggling to survive, and schools unable to hold classes in person. High vaccination rates drove the government to initiate the shift to the so-called Living with COVID-19 scheme in November, but that abruptly came to a halt the next month as the Omicron variant emerged and cases soared to above 7,000.
We must break the chain of infections in the community and reduce the risk of contracting the virus.
With daily caseloads still lingering in the thousands, the highly transmissible mutation is expected to become the dominant strain in the country within this week, and authorities fear a fifth wave may be on the horizon.
The pandemic entered a new phase with the rise of Omicron. The scale is larger than ever. I call it Season 3. Humanity is longing for everything to end with Season 3, but if a new variant pops up, yet another season may be upon us.
Game-changing oral treatments, namely Pfizer's Paxlovid pill, are currently being prescribed though, something the nation is counting on, along with booster shots, to eventually bring all the chaos to an end.
In the end, it is the combination of natural immunity after infection and artificial immunity after inoculation that can boost the population's immunity to gradually contain the pandemic.
In a statement on Thursday, President Moon Jae-in thanked the country's healthcare workers and the public for persevering through the crisis and asked for their continued cooperation. 한성우, Arirang News.
President Moon Jae-in held a summit with his Egyptian counterpart. They discussed ways to bolster defense and economic cooperation. Kim Min-ji brings the highlights from that session.
South Korea and Egypt have agreed to make efforts to seal a deal to sell Seoul's K9 Thunder self-propelled howitzers to Cairo. President Moon Jae-in on Thursday attended a summit with his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. The two sides have been in negotiations and, if struck, would be the first export to the Arab region.
우리 두 정상은 지금 논의되고 있는 K9 자주포 계약이 양국 간 상호 신뢰에 기반한 방산 협력의 성과로서 K9 자주포가 이집트군 전력 정강에 크게 기여함과 동시에 기술 협력, 현지 생산을 통한 한 이집트 간 상생 협력의 대표적 성공 사례가 될 것이라는 데 의견을 같이 하고 최종 타결을 위해 함께 노력해 나가기로 했습니다.
The leaders also agreed to a joint feasibility study for a bilateral free trade deal to expand their scope of cooperation in future-oriented and sustainable areas based on their comprehensive cooperative partnership. If signed, it would be South Korea's first FTA with an African nation.
광범위한 FTA 네트워크와 젊은 인구 구조, 풍부한 자원까지 갖춰 발전 가능성이 무궁무진합니다. 양국은 또한 친환경 모빌리티, 해양과 우주 개발 같은 미래 분야로 경제 협력의 지평을 넓혀 나가기로 했습니다.
South Korea also pledged $1 billion through the Economic Development Cooperation Fund, which is aimed at helping less developed countries by providing low-interest loans. This will be used to fund various projects like expanding transport infrastructure. The two sides signed an MOU in which South Korea takes part in the modernization project of Egypt's Luxor High Dam Railway.
한국의 개발 경험을 나누고 이집트의 교통, 수자원, 인프라 확충에 힘을 보탤 것입니다. 국가 균형 발전과 공공 혁신 분야 정책 교류를 통해 양국 국민의 삶의 질 개선에도 함께 노력할 것입니다.
On the occasion of the official visit, Moon also held a written interview with Egypt's daily newspaper Al-Aram, which was published on Thursday. He echoed optimism toward working with Egypt to increase mutual benefits for the two countries, saying that Seoul and Cairo are hubs for entry into the Asian and African markets, respectively. Moon also used the opportunity to drum up support from Egypt for the Korean Peninsula peace process. While looking at the current situation, Moon said it won't be easy, as the road to peace hasn't been institutionalized yet. The South Korean leader said peace will be achieved when people have a strong desire for it and vowed sincere efforts until the end of his term in May. Moon's visit to Egypt is the first by a South Korean leader in 16 years. It's the final leg of his week-long tour that also took him to Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News, Cairo.
North Korea is reportedly considering restarting all temporarily suspended activities and halting trust-building measures with the U.S. over what it calls hostile policies. This could mean the regime would conduct nuclear and ICBM tests. Kim Dami helps us read between the lines.
North Korea says it will consider resuming nuclear and ICBM testing for the first time since 2018, when the regime declared a self-imposed moratorium on such activities. In the first policymaking Politburo meeting of the ruling Workers' Party of the New Year, chaired by leader Kim Jong-un earlier this week, the North talked about the need to prepare measures for a long-term confrontation with the U.S., claiming Washington's hostile policies against Pyongyang are worsening by the day. Those U.S. policies include conducting joint military drills and slapping on sanctions in the last few years after the 2018 North Korea-U.S.-Singapore summit. Experts point out certain dates for possible military activities.
Considering the North has pledged to celebrate the birthday of the leader Kim Jong-un's late father Kim Jong-il and the 110th anniversary of the birth of the regime's founding leader Kim Il-sung, the regime may stage military activities as early as around February 16th and as late as April 15th.
But the expert also noted it's highly likely they will actively carry out their weapons development plan after the Beijing Winter Olympics. But considering the North on Thursday said it's reconsidering the suspension of military activities, watchers note the latest announcement is a part of an effort to push the U.S. to prioritize North Korea on the Biden administration's agenda, meaning the current situation could depend on Washington's response.
The Biden administration will not yield to North Korea, but it also doesn't want the situation to worsen because Washington has a lot on its plate, from Ukraine to the COVID situation there. It will feel the pressure to stabilize the situation first.
Following Thursday's announcement, South Korea's unification ministry underlined that dialogue and diplomacy are the only way to a future of peace, and said Seoul will closely work with related countries to prepare for the worst situation possible following the North's latest round of missile tests. Kim Dami, Arirang News.
South Korea's National Security Council will keep close tabs on Pyongyang after a series of missile launches. Members will make preparations for the possibility of the situation worsening. In a weekly meeting, officials vowed to closely coordinate with the U.S. and other related parties to focus on resuming dialogue with the regime for stability on the peninsula. The communist state has conducted 4 missile launches this month alone. The NSC pledged to take necessary measures to protect South Korean nationals and companies in regions where military tensions are high. Following North Korea's warning that it will resume nuclear and ICBM testing, Seoul's top nuke envoy No Kyu-duk held phone talks with his American and Chinese counterparts. But Sung Kim-no agreed the situation on the peninsula can only be resolved through talks and diplomacy, and vowed to continue close cooperation on the matter. During the phone with Liu Xiaoming, the envoys agreed to work together to stably manage the situation. The South Korean government will provide $200,000 in humanitarian aid to Tonga after the Pacific Island nation was hit by the recent tsunami. It will also review the need to provide additional support after being informed of the exact scale of the damage. There have been fears over contaminated water sources caused by volcanic ash and salt water from the tsunami that could increase the risk of diseases such as cholera and diarrhea. Seoul reportedly plans to provide more supplies through international organizations such as the UN should Tonga request further support. U.S. President Joe Biden held a press conference on Wednesday to mark 1 year in office. The commander-in-chief touched on efforts to fight the pandemic, controlling inflation, and had a few words for Russia amid tensions over Ukraine. Min Soo-kyun shares with us his remarks.
On the eve of his 1 year mark in office, U.S. President Joe Biden touted the work and efforts made by his administration. While acknowledging the frustration and fatigue caused by the pandemic, he said enormous progress has been made in fighting COVID-19.
I know there's a lot of frustration and fatigue in this country, and we know why. COVID-19, Omicron has now been challenging us in a way that it's the new enemy. But while it's cause for concern, it's not cause for panic. We've been doing everything we can, learning and adapting as fast as we can, and preparing for a future beyond the pandemic.
He stressed that just 2 million people had been vaccinated a year ago when he was sworn in as president. but now more than 200 million Americans are fully vaccinated. Biden said that the country is currently in a better place to fight the virus, citing vaccination efforts, swift testing, and new medications. He reassured the public that the country will not roll back to lockdowns and that schools will stay open. To the new normal, he said it's a job not yet finished, implying that it was too early to make any judgments on his work on the return to normalcy. On inflation, however, he vowed to keep it under control as people are seeing higher prices at grocery stores, gas stations, and elsewhere. Biden said efforts will be made to fight inflation, including resolving supply chain disruptions and cracking down on unfair market competition. Biden also commented on current tensions with Russia over a military buildup on its border with Ukraine. He predicted Russia will move into Ukraine, but vowed unprecedented sanctions, saying Russia will be held accountable if it invades and will pay a stiff price. Min Suk-hyun, Arirang News.
As part of efforts to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, Seoul announced plans to make buildings in the capital more eco-friendly. Through 2026, the city is offering to help renovate 1 million homes and buildings, which will include interest-free financing for energy-efficient improvements. It'll also add infrastructure to boost the number of EVs to 400,000, or about 10% of all cars. The plan will cost around $8.4 billion. By 2026, the goal is to reduce emissions from 2005 levels by 30%. Celebrities and singers are meeting their fans or holding concerts in the metaverse. The virtual world is even used to create new stars. Average Joes and Janes can audition online to become the next K-pop sensation. Kim Bo-kyung explains further.
Auditions for idol groups no longer just take place in the real world. People are choosing the next trending celebrities in the virtual world by watching a series of talented virtual avatars played by online broadcast streamers. One of the hottest virtual idol groups is 이세계 Idol, a 6-member girl group that debuted last December after passing auditions held by a well-known Twitch streamer.
국내 최초 버추얼 아이돌 오디션 이세계 아이돌 프로젝트 오늘 오디션 그 첫날
이세계 Idol debuted with the song Rewind, and they are mesmerizing fans, already almost hitting 3 million views for their official YouTube music video. The streamer behind the project says their next song could be released by the end of February. And they aren't the first virtual K-pop stars. Riot Games, the studio best known for League of Legends, used the opening ceremony of the game's 2018 World Championship final to unveil virtual K-pop group KDA. The video for the 4-member group's debut song, Pop Stars, has been viewed almost 500 million times. An insider says people who are not game players have also become fans of the group, and as the reason behind such success is nothing but the essentials.
We believe the neat song itself was the main reason. We benchmarked K-pop songs, catching K-pop lovers' attention. Unique storytelling, too, has played a big part. League of Legends has around 150 characters with their own universe and characteristics, along with storytelling. KDA Group, too, has stories for each of the 4 members.
The new trend has gone even further with the creation of an AI idol group. AI graphic company Pulse9 brought life to Eternity, an 11-piece girl group made from hyper-realistic virtual characters. The girls were chosen from the faces of 101 girls online by internet users and were brought to life using artificial intelligence. Culture critics say Generation Z especially has a strong tendency to just enjoy virtual reality, no matter whether it is real or not. As the virtual world becomes the new normal, eyes are on whether it will become the mainstream in the entertainment industry. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
Frigid conditions will continue until tomorrow morning. Cold wave alerts are currently issued for parts of central regions and the surrounding areas. For northern Gyeonggi-do and parts of Gangwon-do provinces, conditions are especially cold, with warnings currently in place. Temperatures are forecast to return to the seasonal average tomorrow daytime. But because morning lows will stay in the minus territory, expect wide temperature gaps of at least 10 degrees for most regions. Places like Jiangsu in Jeollabuk-do province will see a difference of 18 degrees Celsius. Dressing in layers will be recommended to keep your body temperatures warm. Most regions will be under sunshine for the morning hours. Chuncheon will be very cold at minus 13 degrees. And daytime highs will be 1 to 3 degrees higher than today. Seoul will get up to 4 degrees. Daejeon 7, Daegu and Gyeongju will make it to 8 degrees Celsius. No rain or snows in the forecast until this weekend. Relatively milder conditions are expected until Sunday. That's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
Time to wrap things up. As always, thank you for staying with us.